Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another video. I know it's been almost 2 weeks since I filmed something, so I'm happy to be back on the horse. The reason why I've been MIA is because I've been actually building everything for my next drop. So the website, the marketing, email marketing, all the content, making sure that my bulk inventory is at the warehouse, all my packaging is at the warehouse. But anyway, basically in this video, I'm gonna break down the 2025 clothing brand roadmap again, but this time updated, and I'm gonna share a bunch of new content from my own brand as well as some of my updated thoughts and ideas about this whole system that I built and I've talked about a couple times on this channel, but I think I'm going to start making way more content about it from now on. I'm also putting all of this content now in my Skool community. So I launched a free Skool. It's called brand.os or brand operating system. We just hit 60 members, which is super awesome, and it's going to be free for the first 100. But basically, everything I'm going to talk about in this video is in here and is elaborated on in much more detail. And there are a lot of really awesome people in here, so be sure to get in there before I paywall it. Anyway, so this chart that you're looking at, this is basically all of the buckets I've identified or different sections of my clothing business. If I were to think about my brand and business strictly by first principles, these would be the first principles. I have a design system, I have high quality products, I have content, I have an excellent e-commerce experience, which is currently behind a password protected page, but I will give you guys a sneak peek of the Shopify site that I built. I have an operation system with a third-party logistics company called Pietra. So basically, I ship all of my products from my manufacturer directly to the Pietra warehouse, and then it's synced up with my Shopify, which I'll show you. And then I have the marketing bucket, or here I have my email marketing, I do paid ads, I do influencer partnerships, and I set up seasonal promotions. I actually broke the Skool into several more buckets, but each one of these is like its own mini online course. So if you want to go into this in much more detail, definitely go there. I have a ton of content to break down throughout this whole video, and you might not need the design system section. You might want to just focus on my actual design process for creating really high quality products, or maybe you are only interested in the manufacturing portion where I am going to talk about sampling and bulk orders, or maybe you're just interested in the content section. Either way, the timestamps will be in the description and I'll pin them in the first comment on this video. So feel free to jump around. You don't have to watch this whole thing if it doesn't apply to you. But I think if you are a beginner watching this video, even if it takes a couple of sit downs to really fully understand it, it's going to give you a comprehensive look at how to create a clothing brand startup, basically. Okay, so the first bucket, the design system. A design system is like a rule book that helps keep everything about a brand's design consistent and easy to use, whether that's on the website or an app or a product package. It includes all the guidelines for how things should look and work, like the colors, the fonts, and even how the buttons or images are placed. This system makes sure that no matter where you see the brand, whether it's on social media, in an ad, or in a store, it all feels connected and familiar. And it also helps designers and developers work faster by giving them a clear set of instructions to follow. So if you are outsourcing any of the design aspects of the brand, like garment design or graphic design, having a design system to give to that freelancer or someone on your team is going to be really important. In addition to that, if you're working with any kind of web developer, it seems like everybody is in some ways capable of becoming a web developer or a software engineer these days with tools like Bolt and Cursor. If you're working with someone that uses those tools, or maybe if you use those tools yourself, the design system is really important to have to make sure that everything you're developing, all the software you're developing or the website you're creating, everything needs to look extremely consistent. So basically, this design system, which I'll show you a specific example of in a second, creates a unique brand identity and it creates consistency across all channels. The unique brand identity is established with the logo, the typography, and the color palette. And all the channels I'm referring to are social media, press and editorial, the website, and packaging. So let's go through these sub buckets in order. First, we'll start with logo and typography. The typography determines the tone from the first impression when someone sees the website or the brand logo. There are really two styles that fashion brands tend to use, luxury brands specifically: serif fonts and sans serif fonts. Here is a great picture to depict the difference. Serif fonts have these little embellishments at the ends of the letters, and sans serif, which just means without serif, do not have the little embellishments, otherwise known as. Serif styles include Times New Roman. Everybody knows Times New Roman. Times New Roman comes off as intellectual, academic, informed, traditional, trustworthy. On the other hand, we have sans serif styles like Calibri and Arial. These fonts are much more comfortable and modern and practical. You don't see Times New Roman on street signs. You typically don't see serif styles in utilitarian design, making it less practical for most use cases. Here are some examples of luxury brand logos. Ralph Lauren uses a serif font. Valentino also uses a serif font. Lacoste uses a sans serif font. Celine uses a sans serif font. Calvin Klein uses a sans serif font, etc. You get the point. In recent years, a bunch of luxury fashion brands have switched from these extravagant, over the top serif logos to these more understated and very similar sans serif fonts, which this guy Phoebos calls the sans serif epidemic, which is a reflection of the change of times. These brands just don't want to seem like a stuffy, or I guess in this writer's words, fussy, old world luxury. And people want a fresher and simpler ethos. They just want something more modern, something more understated. But I like this note. At the same time, the logos retain some hints of tradition by using elongated letters that tower over all else. These brands are larger than life. NASA has a government document called the NASA Graphic Standards Manual that I reference all the time and am extremely inspired by. I talk about this more in the Skool, and I link to it in the Skool, so definitely go there and check it out. But basically, NASA has this guide that determines exactly how the typography and logos and colors are displayed for everything. The NASA uses Helvetica, which is a sans serif font, for pretty much all text. Helvetica Medium for the headlines, and then just the regular Helvetica for the body text. Or here we could actually see it: 10-point Helvetica Light, 14-point Helvetica Medium. So this is 10-point Helvetica Light, and this is the 14-point Helvetica Medium. And then NASA also uses serif, Times New Roman, for newsletters, house organs, and other news-oriented publications. I like this note. This typeface is appropriate for large volume settings as the reader does not tire of the appearance. The entire family of Times Roman, including italic and bold, gives the designer a practical typeface to solve certain complicated problems. Headings may be set in Helvetica Medium or in Times Roman bold. So then we can see that here again. 10-point Times Roman for the body of newsletters, and 14-point Helvetica Medium for the headlines. Here's Times Roman for headlines, and here's Times Roman bold for headlines. This document is like super long. I recommend that you just go and check it out yourself. I'm not going to break down the entire doc, but I wanted to make note of this one other thing in here: the reproduction art section. This page contains camera-ready reproduction artwork. This artwork should be used at the same size shown. Reductions and enlargements will alter the character of the typography. So I see this a lot. So this can be applied to any brand, fashion brand, but even artists that have logos, like in the music industry. For example, if a rapper is getting booked at a club That club is going to need to use the reproduction art guidelines to make sure that the integrity of this artist's logo and brand is kept intact. Like they can't say, for example, Playboy Cardi, right? Like if Playboy Cardi gets booked at a club in Miami or something after Rolling Loud, they can't just use some random font or like free font or stock font for the flyer. Like we got Playboy Cardi, like they're gonna have to use his specific brand guidelines that his team likely provides. There's no way that an artist like that is just having clubs put their name up in some random font. Anyway, I digress. The next subsection of typefaces is a type scale. I don't want to go too into type scales right now. This is more related to web development or if you were designing in Figma. Basically, a type scale defines a hierarchy of text styles. So the sizes, weights, line spacing across different content areas and platforms. So I have one specific type scale that I use for Pathos of Things. It's the major type scale or the 1.125 multiplier type scale. And it looks like this. Hero is 41, bold, H1 32, bold, H2 26, and so on. My headlines are Helvetica, and my body and utility text are Arial. You can use the type scale generator from Material Design. It's powered by Google Fonts to create a type scale for your brand. Or you can use Scale with 3 A's. It's a free Figma plugin, allows you to generate consistent type scales based on presets. It's pretty cool. I've used it. This is actually the Figma plugin that I used to create this type scale for my brand Pathos of Things. And then next, the fun part, the logo, and then we'll wrap up typefaces and fonts, and we'll move on to the next section, the design system. So my logo has evolved a lot over the years. In 2019, I came up with the idea for the brand, and I just ripped off Fear of God, and Fear of God was just ripping off the band Pentagram. And then Jerry Lorenzo used that same font for Justin Bieber's Purpose Tour. So this font was getting used a lot, but I thought it was iconic, and I was like, oh, that looks super sick with this name, Pathos of Things that I had saved in my notes. I didn't even know if it was going to necessarily be a clothing brand yet. And then here's V2 of the baby brand logo, which uses a free font called Planet Cosmos, which I saw on the Phases album by Chase Atlantic, which came out in 2019. And Easy Calabasas also used this font, which I think is where Chase Atlantic was inspired from. These are the Calabasas socks. Anyway, I saw it here on the Chase Atlantic album first. But that didn't last super long. In 2020, I actually incorporated the business and I formed an LLC and I made a website. And this was the logo that I was running with. So I took this free font and I traced over it and then redesigned it in Adobe Illustrator. And then I tried this random edgy death metal font logo, which didn't stick. I didn't keep it. Anyway, then I came up with this emblem. I isolated the P from here, and I still use this. I have a much cleaner version of this. As you can see, it's like blurry. That was the profile picture on the brand page for a couple years. Anyway, then I did this like Playboy font for this one-off t-shirt drop. And this drop actually sold pretty well, did really well. But that was like the beginning of what I'm calling V0 or P0. And then I did season one, which now I'm calling P1, which had some more logos and fonts, just testing more things. This was a design for a one-off drop of hats that went viral on TikTok and got featured in GQ, but I never used this design again because I just wanted it to be for this special drop, and I don't think it really fits the aesthetic of the brand anymore. But then I got some SVG files. I made them in Adobe Illustrator for the PE emblem logo, so no more blurry edges. And then the word mark that I was using was just a free font from Canva called Arimo with bold and italics. But beyond this, I didn't really have a specific font family that I was using. It was all very random. Then I did this like hybrid tag logo where it used the free font from Canva, but then it also used this free serif font. So I was using a sans serif font for the main logo and then a serif font for the design in Los Angeles, California, and then I was using that as the tag for my hoodies. And then I experimented with adding Y2K stars to the P emblem, and then I mixed it in with a racing aesthetic, but I abandoned this idea like almost immediately. I think this puffer was pretty hard in retrospect. I really like this piece, and my customers really like this piece, but it was doing too much with it. Like I had this custom emblem with Y2K stars, which were super trendy, and then I had a free Canva font, and then I had a different free Canva font, and then I had this racing flag SVG, like a free racing flag SVG that I just got off the internet. There's just so many aesthetics and things happening, and it wasn't glued together. And at the time, I didn't see that. I didn't really have the eye for it. So what ended up happening is the collection felt a little messy and random. It's hard to tell a brand story when the logos and the aesthetics are not cohesive. Then in 2023, I experimented with this logo. I wanted to lean into the racing aesthetic. If I were to pick one thing from here, I was going to pick the racing aesthetic in addition to the emblem. So I had Hunter create this for me, and then pretty much immediately after that, I said, I don't want to do the racing aesthetic thing anymore. It's not for me. A lot of other brands are doing it. It seems saturated, gonna make me seem washed. Took it out, and then now this is what I'm rolling with. This is the clean, distilled logo plus emblem combo that I'm running in 2025. So, yeah, that's logos, the quick and dirty rundown of logos and my logo progression and how I got to where I am with the logo and the design. So moving on to color. I don't want to go too into color. There are lots of better color theory videos on YouTube. Zoe Hong specifically has great color theory videos I recommend checking out. I'll talk a little bit about the colors that inspired me that I use in my palettes for my design system. So I really like these kind of palettes that have shades of black, white, and gray, and then some kind of loud contrasting color. And by loud, I don't mean it like neon. It doesn't need to be neon necessarily, like this green, even though that green is really nice. But just something that contrasts nicely with the shades of gray and white and black. So these are some images from my Cosmos mood board. You can actually pull this up. This was from, I believe, it was called Pathos December. Pathos 5 December. Made this back in December of 2024. So this is from Cosmos. This is the board I made around that palette specifically. This one. And then I also made a board for this green color. I think this one was called Green Soft Club. Yeah. So here's my Green Soft Club mood board that I made around this palette. If you don't quite have an eye for color, there's a free AI tool that's really good at helping you develop your eye for color. It's called Claude. You could also use ChatGPT. It's like the same thing. But just in my experience, I find that Claude is a little bit better at generating these specific color palettes with hex codes. So the example I'm going to show you is Claude, but again, feel free to use ChatGPT or Google Gemini or whatever your preferred LLM is. So here's a specific example of how I generate color palettes from professional editorials that I'm inspired by. So this is a Ralph Lauren campaign featuring Winter from Espa, and I ran a prompt. Feel free to pause and read, but also if you want to just copy and paste this, my prompts are in the Skool group here in the AI and Tech Tools for Brands section. But anyway, yeah, so I just ran this simple prompt through Claude and I took a screenshot of this image, and then Claude generated this color palette for me with hex codes. And the cool thing about Figma is that you can just take this color palette and then save it as a preset. And I've been putting together like a library of color palettes from editorials that inspired me in my Figma. So then that's really been helping me develop my eye for color. Here are some other examples. This is the image I put into Claude featuring winter again. And here's the color palette. Here's another really awesome Ralph Lauren campaign featuring winter again, and here's the color palette. So you get the point. This document is also in the Skool, so if you want to take a closer look at these prompts and these color palettes, you could just go there and check it out. There's a Figma plugin called Foundation. It's free and it's really good at generating color palettes with specific hex codes and shades and tints. So I recommend checking that out. And then I also have some info in this doc about core color palette concepts, primary colors, secondary and accent colors, and neutrals. I'm not going to talk about them in this video. That's not really the point, but go there to check it out. Something I do want to talk about, though, is the color palette I use for my brand, Pathos of Things. So this is straight from my brand style guide, which I'll break down in much more detail later in this video. But here, as you can see, I have a slide in my brand style guide for color palette. And let me go back here. Yep. So this is the color palette. I have hex codes. It's very clean. Oh yeah, and here are the winter images with the color palettes. So it's a little easier to see. As you can see, these are really good, like damn good. So definitely try out that Claude strategy for yourself. But again, I digress. So that's color. I put together a little, I don't know, outline of how a brand I like, a brand called Represent, keeps their design system consistent. I'm not affiliated with them at all. I can't speak on their official strategy, but this is just an observation that I've made. They have an emblem and a word mark, the same way that I have an emblem and a word mark, like I showed you over here. And they use those on like everything. And it's just these for everything, bro. Like they never use an emblem or a word mark that's different than these. And then they apply their color palette and their fonts across everything, dude. Like it's so synced up. Their photos and their reels are art directed and color graded, so everything matches and looks really nice. And this is the same font as what's on the website, and the the packaging has the same fonts and sizing and everything. And the founders are all synced up with their matching profile photos and matching bios, and they use the same art direction and color grading, and all of their social pages, like their Facebook and their Twitter and their emails, all use those same logo and word marks as up here, like I was saying. Oh yeah, and then here's their packaging. So, like I was saying, the packaging is super important. It's something that I think a lot of brands overlook or miss. Or if they do have some kind of packaging, it's like stock poly mailers and no tissue paper. There's no real like unboxing experience. It's just like as cheap as possible. They Represent elevates their unboxing experience. I choose to elevate my unboxing experience. But then it's important to make sure that the design system is applied to the packaging as well and not just the garment. So if you are going to be putting your logo on any packaging, it needs to be consistently applied in the same way that it is on your website or for your garment. One way that I got really good at developing my eye for design systems, typography, logos, colors, art direction, just I really leveled up my brand and my vision in general was by making lots of mood boards. I use Figma like you're seeing here. I use Make the Dot, which I think is an underrated software and Google Chrome plugin, which I will demo really quick and show you. But basically, what it does is allows me to go onto Pinterest and use this Save to Make the Dot Chrome plugin. I just need to log in really quick. So as you guys can see, I'm in Pinterest here, and when I hover over one of these images, there's this little save button from the Make the Dot Chrome plugin, and it just adds whatever image I press save on to this little bucket window here. And then I can directly save these to any of my boards, and I can create a board as well. Here's my Make the Dot workspace. These are just a bunch of different mood boards that I've made over the last couple months. Here's a fit board for Pathos of Things. This is for what I was calling a pre-fall capsule, but this kind of turned into P2, which I'll show you a little bit more later in this video. I also make mood boards for specific aesthetics. This is the Starboy aesthetic. The way that I put this together is I went into Pinterest and I typed in Starboy aesthetic, and then I just went down this rabbit hole and I would just see something, oh, that looks cool. Let me save that. Okay, let me click on that. Oh, let me now go down this rabbit hole. Oh, that's a cool hairstyle. Let me save that. And the next thing you know, I have this bucket filled with photos that I can save to any of these mood boards here. I'll show you one or two more of these. Here's a lighting study mood board that I put together. So this is like a lighting and color study, but basically these are all the images that inspired me from a sit down session where I was just going through Pinterest for, I don't know, maybe a half hour, 45 minutes, adding a bunch of images that inspired me to this lighting study board. Then I curated them by color. And then what I will do is I'll take a screenshot of these and then discuss the lighting with ChatGPT or Claude. Like I could just take a screenshot and say, hey, I really like this Gentle Monster ad. Let's break down the art direction for this ad and just discuss it like that. I think that's a underutilized feature of ChatGPT is breaking down images for creative art direction. Here is a very early version of the season 2, now called P2 mood board, which really shaped the direction for the e-commerce photos and editorial photos. So I'm going to show you guys this more later in the video when I get to the content section. But these are images for my website, for my brand. And these are done, these are edited, but they were heavily influenced by these images, which were on my mood board. I made pants like these, I made jeans like these, made pants like these, and I really used this style as my main inspiration. You could see like the gradient, light to dark, it's very similar. Another way that I like to study mood boards is by putting together magazine covers. I love art-directed magazine covers. They are eye candy to me. Originally, a lot of my early designs were heavily inspired by magazine covers. I'll show you these t-shirts were supposed to look like magazine covers. This one as well, the Playboy one that did really well. It sold a ton of these. This is like a magazine cover. At least it's supposed to feel like that. I have a bunch of other examples of my mood boards in this document as well. Here are some examples of other art direction from fashion brands and editorial campaigns like Esquire. So now to tie it all in for the design system, again, in case you are a little lost, we are still talking about the design system here. I apply all of these things that I just talked about to my brand deck. I have a full brand deck that I'm going to break down really quick, and then I also have a template that you can use for your brand, and this template is in the Skool. So I'm not going to break down this template, but I'll just show you what it looks like here. If you think this could be helpful for you, be sure to go download it at the link in the description. So let me switch over to the actual deck, not just a screenshot of the deck. And I'm just going to break down these slides one by one. So this is the brand emblem as the title slide. Pathos of Things is a brand by me. Here's my mission: make sustainable designer garments for those who create culture, not just consume it. Inspired by Mono no Aware, aka the Pathos of Things. Here is the brand story. I'm not going to read it. You can read it if you download the deck. Here is the logo, the emblem, the typography. Headlines are Helvetica, body and utility are Arial. Color palette, 3D renders for upcoming garments. Ecom photo inspo, these are from Prada. Editorial photo inspo. I have 2 slides for this, so this is my black and white art direction slide and my full color art direction slide. For editorial photos, I wanted to make sure each photo looked like it could be a glossy page in a luxury magazine. Runway inspiration, I'm not doing a runway show for this capsule. I'm saving that for when I have the complete collection out in several months after I do a few of these drops. Lifestyle and vibe slide, I think this is super important and underrated for building an actual following and not just attaining a bunch of consumers that want fast fashion or some kind of trend. And then I included another lifestyle slide. Pretty girls in penthouses. It's just another vibe. All right, so that's pretty much it for the design system section. To recap, a design system is your rule book. It's the skeleton, it's the foundation in which you build the rest of your brand. It determines your vibe, it's going to determine your target audience, it's going to determine the people that resonate with you, aka target audience. I guess it's maybe a little redundant, but it's really important and it's going to save you a lot of time in the beginning when you're building. If you have a roadmap, the rate at which you will progress increases exponentially compared to if you don't have a plan and you're just winging it. But in many cases, a plan for startup clothing brands is not like running ads and sending emails. It's coming up with great logos and great typography and consistent colors and amazing visuals and applying those visuals across all of the social channels so the messaging is really consistent. So we just checked off this part of the map. The next part of the map is the product. So the main thing that I sell outside of vibe and lifestyle, it's all about the actual clothes that I sell. I run a fashion brand. It's not just like a lifestyle brand, and I'm not just a blogger or curator curating vibes. I'm actually selling something. I'm selling clothes. So the thing I'm selling needs to be really good if I want to survive. So in this section, I'm going to break down what it even means to be a fashion designer to me in 2025 and how that applies to running a clothing brand or a fashion brand. First, I'm going to answer this question. Do I need to know how to design in order to launch a clothing collection or a fashion collection or start a brand? This is going to really come down to what you want. You need to think, do you even want to be the designer? Do you even have a passion for design, or are you more interested in the business aspect of running the brand or the creative direction aspect of running a brand? If you do some soul searching and you find it right in your soul that you want to be the designer and you want to be a part of the design process of the garments, awesome. You need to start learning the basics of design. There are lots of ways to get started. There are online courses for free and paid, and there are beginner-friendly softwares. YouTube is the number one resource, in my opinion. But then beyond that, Udemy and Skillshare are pretty good. You can get started designing and putting logos together and color palettes together using Canva or Adobe Express. Super simple. And then you can upgrade to using things like Adobe Illustrator, Photoshop, and Clo 3D over time. That's what I did. If you don't want to be the designer, that's okay too. But you will need to learn how to delegate and lead a team and have other designers do the designing for you based on your vision. The biggest thing is being able to articulate your vision. And I guess the biggest thing before that is even having a vision in the first place. So go make more mood boards, basically, is what I'm saying. Develop a vision and then figure out how you can have other people execute on that vision for you. If you're just getting your feet wet with outsourcing, just use Fiverr or Upwork and start with a freelancer with a pretty cheap rate, just to get used to the concept of hiring a freelancer. It's a little weird at first if you've never done that before, but I promise after a couple times it gets really easy. Whether you decide to be the designer or not, the pieces that get designed need to work together visually and conceptually. This is really important. You don't want to have too many aesthetics going on. You don't want to have too many brand aesthetics going on. It reminds me of that video of Virgil with what's that kid's name? I think it was, no, not Critiques Brand. I think it was called Hypeland. Mentor Streetwear Brand. Here it is.
Streetwear history wise.
So if there is, Virgil, obviously everything he says is gold, but if there was some serious alpha that I took out of this video, I believe it was right here.
That it's just like a moment in time. It can make it harder to zone in. But one of the main things is the idea of not to be overlooked. It's like a crazy strong concept. Is the idea that every season was just two places in the world. It's like this Olympic thing. That's this worldwide. That's just a few, because what I think I'm trying to overall say is there's a lot, which is not a bad thing. The worst part is when there's nothing.
Yeah.
And these aren't like valid concepts. Also, like when it comes to cut and sew, we'll look at what you're doing. Obviously, there's classic shapes, but anime, like not looking at it for the art, but looking at it for the garments. There's some amazing references with color blocking. Like the whole collection could be only anime, everything away.
Yeah, that makes
And
sense.
it's just that.
Couple pieces.
This is
Which is, I think, what he ended up doing for Hypeland. But basically, the whole point of this is the mood board that I don't know his name, but the founder of Hypeland created this, and Virgil was mentoring him. And Virgil basically said, bro, like, I can see like 10 different brands basically on your mood board. And then basically said, lean into the anime thing. And then that's pretty sure that's what Hypeland ended up doing. I don't know if they still do it. Yeah. Attack on Titan collab, One Piece collab, Gundam collab. Yeah. Parody, Attack on Titan collab. So I saw that. I didn't even realize Hypeland was doing that when I created this brand. I also was doing something similar, but I didn't want any smoke with the real anime brands. Like I didn't use real images of actual IP, like Naruto, for example. I think Hypeland went all into that, and then they now are just doing like official collabs. I realized that what didn't really work for me. I wasn't interested in doing that. I didn't want to be a Hypeland competitor, but also, yeah, there's like this, like a bunch of flags here, and then like the barcode, like it's like a magazine cover or something, and there's like a death metal font. There's just so much going on with this specifically. So I ended up dropping that and then ended up doing this, which is way more basic and way more just like elevated streetwear. But again, like I was saying before, this could be like two different brands. This is like a Y2K brand and like a racing culture brand. Anyway, I'll link this in the description of the video. Check out this full 36-minute video from Virgil and Hypeland. It's really solid, really solid. Anyway, moving on. So to expand on that a little bit, the brand story is the foundation for connecting with the audience. So when I was doing the anime streetwear kind of thing, only fans of anime were into it because the social media algorithm was just pushing to only fans of anime and like therefore no one else. So I ended up collaborating with these e-girls. They liked the clothes and their demographic liked the clothes, so there was that synergy there. But in no way was I going to sell these to like a menswear audience, which is what I'm going for now. When I did the elevated streetwear and I was really only collaborating with underground rappers in LA, only fans of underground rap were buying my brand, which was cool too. I fucked with that. Shout out Chris King and Kill Cody, RIP, both of them for real. But all I'm trying to say is people understand and resonate towards what is familiar looking to them, right? Here's another product example. I created some mock-ups of a sweater in Midjourney. This is all AI generated. But I wanted to create like a little brand theme just for example for this video. So drawing inspiration from the wardrobe of Manhattan's elite, very gossip girl. The sweater aims to evoke feelings of warmth, comfort, and elegance during the transitional season. And then here's the color palette, and then here are some storytelling elements. So if all of these things are cohesive, it's going to attract this type of person and only this type of person. Like the algorithm is going to show this content with this palette and these storytelling elements to people that want to be involved in this and want to look like this or already look like this and are already living this kind of lifestyle. Once the design system, the aesthetics, the color palette, the direction, the whatever, everything is all established, then I follow Fashionary's guidelines for ensuring a balanced clothing collection, and that includes 4 types of items. So we have the core items. In the past, I did oversized hoodies and cargo pants as my core items. Transaction builders, so more affordable pieces like t-shirts and hoodies. They're low cost, they're branded, they're trendy, and they could drive sales volume and are often bought in multiples. So I did bundles for these tees and I did bundles for these hats as well. Next category is profit generators. These are high margin items that may have a higher price point, but they're still attractive to the core audience. In the past, I did this luxury bomber jacket. I sold it for $400. I also did these leather shoulder bags, which had a high profit margin and were great for year-round sales. And then the 4th category is the wow item. These are attention-grabbing statement pieces designed to create buzz and bring excitement to the collection. So I did this puffer jacket, and then I did a moissanite tennis bracelet that passes a diamond inspector. Here's the video.
Yep.
Okay. If you can balance all 4 types of these items, then you are going to have a consistent clothing collection. It's going to balance sales, higher profit margins, and hype-driven marketing. All right, so now let's get into the nitty-gritty of the actual design workflow. So like how I actually design the garments and go beyond just mood boards and planning, right? Up to this point, it's been a lot of planning, right? So my full design workflow starts with the mood board or fit board. We've talked about this a little bit already. Here is the pre-fall mood board that I showed you guys earlier. This is a very simple and distilled fit board for some garments that I thought looked really well together and that inspired me for an upcoming collection. I picked one product and I started there. In my case, I picked this shirt from Scotch and Soda that I actually own, and it ended up on my mood board. I then took inspiration from this shirt with the curved hem. It's a little oversized, drop shoulder, and I drew a sketch in Figma. I can actually pull up that Figma file. Here's the button-down shirt mock-up. I just drew it with the pen tool, like super simple. White shirt back, white shirt front. So here are all the different vectors. It's just pen tool in Figma, the same way that I used to do in Adobe Illustrator, and then I know how a lot of designers work. They'll use like mockup packs and stuff in Adobe Illustrator. I don't use any mockup packs. I just draw these by hand in Figma, which is just like the very first preliminary step of the design process. After I create this sketch, I then will create the design document, or if you're familiar with tech or coding or anything, which I don't expect a lot of you to be, or any of you really, but if you're familiar with tech and coding, you might know what a PRD file is for setting up an application. This project file or design document is just like a PRD file, but instead of developing a software, I'm designing a garment, and I'm giving this design document to a professional atelier that cuts and sews fabric. But there's a catch. They use a 3D software. They're not cutting and sewing real fabric. I'll get into that in a second. But this is the full design document for this shirt, which I ended up making, and I'll show you. It's this shirt, actually. The idea originally was like a denim jacket shirt hybrid, and I turned it into 2 products. So I have a denim jacket, and then I have this cotton twill shirt with the P logo embroidery on it. But this is the design document for the denim jacket, which I also sketched here. This was like an early sketch of the denim jacket. In this design document, I have the design description at the top. So style and fit, oversized denim shirt / jacket hybrid, mid-weight denim in a black wash, neckline, collar, shoulders, yoke, horizontal yoke across the back for enhanced structure, chest, pockets, sleeves, cuffs, hem, closure, waist, length, buttons, construction details like seams, stitching, and interior details. I made sure that there's this viscose lining along the yoke and shoulders in the back to make the jacket really comfortable and give it a smooth finish against the skin if someone's wearing like a beater or a tank top. And it will also make it easy to slide the jacket on and off. Here are photo and fit references that I included for the jacket, for the drop shoulder, the front yoke, the slightly curved hem, slightly cropped, the trims, silver round snap buttons, and then details about the logo that I need embroidered, similar to this photo, but on the other side of the chest. and then info about the inside label, straight cut, no fold with the logo, wordmark logo. So I put this outline document together, and then I send that to a freelancer that uses a software called Clo3D. There's one specific Clo3D atelier freelancer that I use. She lives in Europe. If you want her information, I put that in my Skool community so you can get in touch with her, or I can introduce you. But yeah, get into the Skool community if you want access to her information. So these are the deliverables. This is what the atelier delivers to me. She gives me a tech pack. She gives me specific patterns, which are the dimensions that the manufacturer will need to cut and sew. The specific dimensions. I'll show you an example. 3D renders, and then she'll send me process videos as well of her using Clo3 and 3D and designing. So this is page 1 of the tech pack. This is just a simple drawing of the shirt that she made. Now we're talking about this shirt, not talking about the denim jacket anymore. Just shift your focus to this shirt. This is page 2 of the tech pack for the shirt. Details the inner lining of the pocket, the pleats, the embroidery, and the tag, as well as the fabric, emblem color, trims, and logos. A how to measure section with the specific dimensions on the next slide. So as you can see, there's, for some reason, when I exported this into Figma or imported this into Figma, the numbers didn't make it. But just imagine this as 1, and this is 2, and this is 3, and then like you can look here at 1, and that's 15.8 centimeters, and then 2, 7 centimeters, and so on. And then here are the 3D renders and the little model mock-ups. This is a model wearing the pants that I'm also releasing in this capsule. These are the Umber trousers. So I got a little video mock-up of that, and then also a little video mock-up of these jeans and the denim jacket. Denim jacket's coming out in exactly 15 days, and the jeans are coming out over the summer. Here are more 3D video renders that she sent me. These are the process videos. I just sped these up in CapCut. These were actually really long. She would send me like a 30-minute video, and I would speed them up and chop them up for my social media. Here's another one of those trousers being made. Here's a video for a hat. I ended up actually scrapping this hat idea, but maybe I'll do this custom hat sometime in the future, maybe over the summer or in the fall. This is what the process video looks like full screen. It's pretty cool. These work great on social media, so I put these on Instagram. People love that on Instagram. And then patterns. So these are the specific dimensions that need to be cut and sewn by the manufacturer. I drew these earlier with the pen tool, but that's not actually included in the file. It looks like this, and then this gets imported into a machine, and then the machine will cut the pieces of fabric and sew them together. More 3D renders. Yeah, and so that's my whole design process. From here, I will then enter the manufacturing stage. So let's talk about manufacturing. If you don't have a manufacturer, then obviously you need to pick a manufacturer. There are 2 main things to consider when picking a manufacturer. Whether you're going to go local in your home country. The majority of my audience is in the US, so I'm going to use the US as domestic for reference, or international. The pros of local or domestic manufacturers, at least in the US, you might have shorter lead times and more control over quality and easier English to English communication, especially if English is your first language. However, way higher production costs, so at least 5x across the board compared to a Chinese manufacturer, which will directly affect the pricing and the profit margins, and they are slow. It seems like the American manufacturers, at least the ones that work with small brands, are extremely slow. They don't have the production system and capabilities that the international manufacturers have. Which leads me to international manufacturers. So the pros of using an international manufacturer, often way lower costs, especially for bulk production. And you get access to a wider range of materials and expertise. The factory manufacturer that I use in China has access to basically unlimited fabrics. If I find a fabric or I can think of a fabric, they can source it for me, like in-house, basically. Where with the American manufacturer that I worked with to make a pair of jeans, they only had a couple fabrics to pick from, and it was extremely slow. It took 3 months to make one pair of jeans for samples, where with China it was like a 3 week process to get the jeans like directly to my door. If you want information about my manufacturers, I include all the manufacturer info in the Skool community, and I also am happy to connect you with them directly. I include the WeChat and their emails and some other good stuff, so be sure to go check that out. Once you have a manufacturer that you want to work with, you then need to begin the sampling process. So the sampling process always starts after the design process is done. I send tech packs, patterns, Clo3D files, and 3D renders directly to the manufacturer, like you can see here. So these are just the zip files directly from my local computer, or I guess maybe from my hard drive, my external hard drive, and I just put it in WeChat. The manufacturer then will pretty much immediately give you, or immediately gave me, a sample invoice. I paid it through Alibaba because Alibaba actually has a really amazing payment processing system for working with international manufacturers. I don't talk to my manufacturer through Alibaba at all. I don't use the Alibaba platform. I speak with them strictly through WeChat, but I guess I lied. I do use the Alibaba platform to pay invoices, but that's pretty much it. So whenever I have an invoice for a sample order or bulk order, I'll just request them to send it through Alibaba. In this case, it costs $80 with a $45 shipping fee for a total of $125 to make the sample for each of these garments. I like to have the manufacturer send me some videos directly from the factory of them making my clothes. So here's a machine screen printing a t-shirt from a past drop. Here's some sample images from the factory of some denim and these hats, and then here's me opening up a box of samples for the first time on the patio at my old crib in LA. Before I started using Clo3D and outsourcing to a professional atelier, I had to make a ton of sample revisions usually. I was winging the design process by trying something in a mock-up, having my manufacturer make a sample, then I get the sample back, then I'm like, I want to make a bunch of changes, then I try to articulate the changes to the manufacturer, and then they'll make another sample, and then sometimes this back and forth process might happen like a bunch of times. I call it the sample trap. I'll talk about the sample trap in a second. But basically designing with Clo3D, you get to use a real person's dimensions, like a real model as the model in the software. So I just set those dimensions to the specific height and weight of the model that I'm going to be shooting the products on for all my content. And then usually everything fits right and I don't have to make any changes. It's perfect. But in the past, I went through this like back and forth quality control design process hybrid with the manufacturer. Whichever way you do it, you need to make sure that you are at least doing some kind of sample quality control. Like even if you are using Clo3D and you're like, oh, the manufacturer is going to get it right because my Clo3D file is perfect, like still do the quality control. Don't just place a bulk order. Get that sample made, make changes if you need to, and budget in for that. Budget in money and time for potential sample revisions. Here's an example of a conversation I had with the manufacturer where I told them I had a bunch of people try on the different cargo pant samples and I wanted to make changes to the cut, and I've been brainstorming different fabric options, etc. So I don't do this with the manufacturer at all anymore. I do this with the atelier, and I make sure that all this info is in my design document that I showed you at the beginning of this video beforehand. If you want to see more conversations with my manufacturer, I have screenshots in this document that you can get in the Skool. Once you have your approved sample and you are ready to sell that product with the world, you need to place a bulk order. Bulk orders always have MOQs, or minimum order quantities. MOQs are the smallest number of units that a supplier is willing to sell at a time. When I first started working with my current overseas manufacturer back in 2022, The MOQ that they offered me was 200 pieces for each design in each color. So if I wanted to do a t-shirt in 3 colors, I was going to have to order 600 shirts, which seemed okay to me at the time, but spoiler alert, it was not okay. And now I never place a bulk order for a new product without verifying the demand. So I will only place a bulk order of 50 pieces. And then if it does well, I restock. And if it doesn't do well, I don't restock. For the sake of establishing a relationship with this manufacturer and just getting the show on the road, I asked if we could reduce the MOQ from 200 to 100 pieces, and then I just placed a bulk order for some tees and hoodies in just one color so I could get things rolling. Once production was finished, the relationship with the manufacturer changed pretty drastically. They were willing to negotiate with me and do things for me just for the sake of helping me out if I asked. I really think I just needed to establish that initial connection with them, place an initial bulk order with them so they knew that I could be trusted because it's a two-way street. I'm not the only one worried about trusting the manufacturer. Like they want to make sure that I'm not going to just order a bunch of samples and then dip or use them to test a bunch of fabrics and then they got to pay a bunch for the sample costs and then they never hear from you again. They don't want that. They want to know that you're in it for the long haul and that you are going to provide long-term business. So a year later, so 2023, a year after we had begun working together, I asked if we could lower the MOQ to 50 pieces. And he said that he applied to the boss and they agreed that we can do 50 pieces per color. And for shirts, the piece per color came out to about 13 bucks. So that's a really good deal. That's a way better deal than what they were initially offering me at 200 pieces per style, per color, like crazy. Here's a key tip when ordering your inventory sizes. This is something that's overlooked. You're going to be asked how many of each size do you want to make and what sizes do you want to make. If you're just starting out, you're not going to have any historical sales data telling you what your customer wants. So it's best to just use the industry standards. That's 10% small, 40% medium, 40% large, and 10% extra large. So if we were doing an MOQ of 100 shirts, for example, that would be 10 small, 40 medium, 40 large, 10 extra large. Some other key things to keep in mind are the lead times. You always want to know the production lead time of the manufacturer, which is pretty much the amount of time it takes from when you place your order to when you receive your inventory. Give yourself enough time. Don't just give yourself a 30-day hard deadline. Think about it more in multiple months. Discuss payment terms up front. This is pretty standard. I bet the manufacturer will do this with you, especially if you use the manufacturer that I use. Again, their information is in the Skool. And then make sure that you are also ordering packaging and your garments all have the required hang tags and care labels. I have a different manufacturer for packaging than for my garments. If you have good packaging, you will have a premium unboxing experience, which is going to increase the brand loyalty between you and your customer. There are a million different types of packaging to pick from. Here is an example. As you can see, it's overwhelming. There's custom everything, and you don't necessarily need everything on this list either. So I only order what I feel are the essentials, and those pieces are poly mailers, frosted zipper bags, which are like poly mailers, but not quite. I got confused about the difference between poly mailers and zipper bags when I was first starting out. Tissue paper, hang tags, and stickers. The reason why I picked these pieces is because they all contribute to the key elements of what I consider to be a premium unboxing experience. PDBP, protection, discovery, brand presence, and professionalism. The poly mailer and zipper bags protect the garment. The tissue wrap and stickers and seal create a discovery element, like they're unwrapping a present on Christmas morning. The hang tag and seal are custom branded with the brand word mark and logo. And the packaging is clean and consistent and cost effective, which makes the brand seem professional. If you do all these things, then you're also going to activate sight, touch, and smell. This is the premium unboxing experience. If you want a link to this, check it out in the Skool. My supplier is Yoko, and I found them through Pietra. Here are mock-ups of my packaging that I ordered from Yoko. So here's the hang tag. I created this in Figma, and I gave them a PDF file of this design. Here's the care label with the wash and care instructions. This is a mock-up of the frosted zipper bag, and here's a reference photo. Here's a custom brand sticker, tissue paper, matte black poly mailer, and then I include cologne here. I like to spray the hang tags with cologne. The total costs come out to $1.62 per package for 500 packages, which is pretty cheap. And then I send these packing instructions directly to Pietra. So if you use Pietra, when you are in the product section, you just press request kitting. And then what kitting is, or what kitting means, is you send instructions for how you want the garment to be packaged or kitted. So these are the instructions for kitting. Prepare the garment, attach the hang tag to garment using black string, spray hang tag with cologne, place garment in zipper bag, seal the garment bag. So that's step one. Next, tissue wrap. Lay out 2 sheets of tissue paper overlapping. Place bagged garment in center. Fold tissue paper over garment neatly. Secure with seal sticker. And then final packaging. Place wrapped garment into poly mailer. Remove adhesive strip backing. Press firmly to seal poly mailer. Ensure shipping label is clearly visible. Quality checks confirm hang tag is securely attached. Verify garment bag is completely sealed. Check that tissue paper is neat and properly secured. Ensure poly mailer is fully sealed. Handle all garments with clean hands. Report any damage or defective packaging materials of multiple items in one order. Pack together following same steps. Boom. So that's super easy. And then the person at Pietro, whenever a order is placed on my website, will just take this custom kitted package and put it on the shipping belt. And then I can send products to customers in 2 days. Okay, so now we've covered the design system and products and manufacturing. We talked about operations a little bit too here. So we covered this, we covered Pietro, 3PL. Now let's talk about content, and then that will feed directly into the e-commerce experience. I'll show you my Shopify website, and then we'll wrap it all up with marketing. There are 4 main pillars of content, I call them pillars, that I shoot for my brand. E-commerce content, editorial content, lifestyle content, and founder content. E-commerce content looks like this. This is the content, photos and videos that live on the website where people purchase clothes, where transactions happen. Most brands follow a shot list similar to this. You have flat lay photos and you have on model photos. For flat lay, you might see front, back, and detail photos. These are the e-commerce photos that I did for my brand for P1. These are e-commerce photos that I'm doing for P2. So let me actually make these a little easier to see. So I have the flat lay photos, like you can see here. This one was the grid on. I was just formatting it. And then I have the on model photos. For these, let's go back to the outline for a second. Usually follow this kind of format: front view, back view, side view, alternate pose, detail 1, detail 2, detail 3. So we have front view, this is a detail, back view, side view, another detail. And then these are some art directed photos that I included. I'll touch on art direction and editorial content after ecom content. Again, here now is another example of the denim jacket that I'm releasing on the 25th. We have the main hero image. Then we have front view, back view, side view, detail 1, detail 2, detail 3, and then I have another flat lay detail photo. And then it's very similar for this third product. Flat lay, hero image, front view, back view, side view, detail 1, detail 2, and then I have two of these flat lay detail images as well. So that's ecom content. I also included in this doc some examples of ecom content from other brands, not just my own. So this is how Ambush does their ecom content. Hard lighting, dramatic shadows, white background. Represent has a softer approach where they tone down the shadows and all of the lighting is very soft and the shadows are eliminated from the on model images. For ecom video, this is typically very simple and just vertical short form. Represent has these nice product page videos just on a tripod. 247 Represent, same kind of thing. I forget which brand this is. I think this might be Elwood. Really nice slow panning shots. Unboxing videos work really well with ads, I've found. Not just from my own brand, but from researching what other brands do for their ads. These unboxing videos go crazy and they're super simple. So as long as you followed all the other steps and you have your manufacturing and your packaging figured out, then you should be able to film these pretty easily just with an iPhone or Android. For my brand's e-commerce video, I have these nice little TikTok style or Instagram reel style looping videos of behind the scenes from the shoot, which I think glues the concept in really nicely. It breaks the fourth wall and gives the shopper an idea behind the scenes. And then it's all just tied in with this very beautifully shot and edited and directed ecom content. Editorial photography should look like a glossy page in a luxury magazine. I know I said that earlier when I was referencing the deck. If you go back and watch that again, you'll see that I talk about my editorial photo inspo. Here is like another board with editorial photo inspo from various brands that I love, like PDF. These are so sick and art directed. This backdrop here to make it look like it's blizzarding and everything is just like perfectly in line. It's just so good, so good. Anyway, Ambush also has amazing art directed editorial style content. Amiri goes super hard. Miu Miu and Prada. These are just some of the most iconic brands in my opinion. Just my favorites personally. So their editorial art directed content is obviously high budget, but it's really good place to go if you need inspiration is check out these more aspirational brands. And then there's editorial video. So I did a bunch of editorial video for P1. I think it looks really good. AD shot and edited these. Yeah, they just look so good. I also have like a BTS editorial for P1 that I shot or that AD shot and edited. I'm in this and I was there for this shoot day. It was like one of the best days ever. Just a bunch of homies making cool photo and video and clothes and art. Anyway, bigger brands do this. Represent does editorial video for all of their collections, like their big fall, winter, spring, summer collections. And then they also do editorial videos for smaller capsules like the Owners Club stamp collection. These are not as long and they seem to be a little more casual than these like the Godspeed collection. Prada does these as well. This is like a BTS style turned into a cool, fun editorial campaign. And then they have their like all out crazy art directed big A-list celebrity Jake Gyllenhaal. Yeah, tons of B-roll, like a huge team. There's 10 extras on screen. Insane. Anyway, so there's definitely like a lot of different approaches you can take. Amiri does very lavish campaigns in LA, very true to the culture of the Amiri brand. And Rude does these campaign films. They call them campaign films, which is just like another way of saying editorial video with big, high profile collaborations like Lamborghini. These look so good and they're color graded and shot and edited very well. I'm starting to see more editorial videos show up in vertical, especially on Instagram. The luxury brands post a lot of this amazing vertical editorial style content. So if you have a nice camera and you have a good eye for how this should look, oh, there's some B-roll. Like you could easily incorporate B-roll. Like these are not difficult to shoot. The trick with these is having a nice camera and consistent color grading so it looks really smooth and high quality. Let's look at some of the editorial content for my brand. So I model some of my own clothes sometimes. These are the editorial photos that I would use for press. I have more on my hard drive and more in this file actually here. More of me. Here are some of Booba. These art directed. This is my like featured in GQ promo banner that is on my website. I could show you this. I could show you this really quick actually. It's on the home screen. So this is an editorial image, like a big hero image for the home page. Here is some editorial video. This is really actually more like e-commerce video, but I edited it for widescreen instead of vertical. Here's my e-commerce photography. Here's my editorial style banner with the GQ feature, and then a video of my design process and some info about me. There's the about section. I'll get more into the Shopify and the e-com in a bit. We'll get there. We'll get there. Next is lifestyle content. For lifestyle content, the goal of these shots is to just world build and sell lifestyle and tell a story if you can. Like all of these images fit an aesthetic and they tell a story in a way. You can picture what this person is doing or imagine a scenario they're in just by looking at this image. For lifestyle content, take photos or videos in places that reflect the lifestyle your audience dreams of or wants to have. It's going to make it really easy for them to buy and not have buyer's remorse after they purchase. I see a ton of brands doing these lifestyle vignettes, these just very simple short form vertical videos. This kind of tells a weird story. There's maybe some drama. I don't really know what's going on. There's another one from Elwood. This couple style shot does really well on social media. People really love these. Cool art direct, far zoom, city location. Broken Planet makes lifestyle content about cars and money and partying and cool friends. It makes you feel like if you buy their clothes, you're going to have cars and money and live this lifestyle. See what I mean? If you want to go through the rest of these, download the document. And then founder content, where the vision is sold. This YouTube video is a form of founder content for me. Different founders have all different types of content that they like to make, and styles of content that they like to make, and methods of content creation. I'm still figuring out my preferred method of content creation, what platforms I want to post on, how I present myself, my editing style, my speaking style, etc. It's definitely a process. But the founders that put themselves out there seem to really be the ones that win. So I'm making that leap. I'm making tons of content. I'm going for it. I aspire to be like these people. I'm trying to make more videos, trying to make more photo content, trying to collab more. So I recommend making boards like this with just screenshots of your favorite fashion designers or brand owners, just to get a really good understanding of what it is they do. And you don't have to like skim through it. Like this could be a long process. Really immerse yourself in the world of what these people do, and it'll start giving you tons of ideas. So now let's talk about how you make this content happen. Like, how do I make this content happen for my brand? Do I just hire a model? Do I just hire a photographer? Like, how does all that work? First of all, let's establish like what my role is here in the content creation process. I consider myself to be the creative director of the brand, and I creative direct all of the content. I hire an art director that's a part of a production company to help me take all of my creative ideas and then turn them into actual art. The creative director art director relationship is the basis of my entire content production system. Let's go over the specific roles so you can get a full understanding of the difference. between a creative director and an art director. The creative director shapes the brand's vision. They are the visionary for this specific project. I'm not saying that an art director is not a visionary, but just in the context of this, the creative director for this project is the visionary for the product. That's super important. They are the team leader and they develop the brand identity and the strategy and they oversee all the products and the overall content creation. Alessandro Michele for Gucci was the creative director. Virgil Abloh for Louis Vuitton and Off-White, he was the creative director. And their personal visions and ideas and teams that they built had a direct influence on the aesthetic, culture, products, everything related to those brands. The art director is responsible for the actual execution of the creative director's plan and vision. They manage the project, they coordinate the team, they develop the concept. In this case, they developed the concept for the set, but the overall concept of the shoot was done by me as the creative director. And they communicate with all of the team members after the shoot to make sure everything is running smooth and looks good. Like the art director is the one communicating with the videographer and the photographer while they're doing their edits. I'm not speaking with the photographer directly, but I'm communicating with the art director like what I need, and then they're speaking with the photographer. There's one art director in particular that I work with on every single project that I do. His name is Dakota Griffin. He runs a company called 199X in New York. Check out the Instagram. They he does crazy work with big artists. Here's Platinum, New Era USA collab, editorial campaigns for PDF featuring Lil Yachty. Like the dude is a monster. So go tap in with him if you're in New York or LA and you're trying to work. Okay, so now that we have a basic idea of what the creative director and art director do in terms of leading the team, there are still several other people involved in making all of this content happen. We have the photographer, who might have a lighting technician or gaffer, but in my experience, the photographer has also set up their own lighting. A videographer, which I'm seeing now is oftentimes also the photographer. That's becoming more and more common. A social media coordinator or someone just to film BTS on an iPhone. For my shoots, I always hire someone to just walk around with an iPhone for the entire day, and then they just dump all of the video. It's like usually hundreds of clips into a Google Drive, and then I repurpose those into content for Instagram and TikTok. Then there's the blue category here, the stylist, hairstylist, makeup artist category. Sometimes this is all one person, sometimes it's three people, sometimes it's five people. It depends. For my last shoot, the art director and I styled the model, and we had one person do hair and makeup. For bigger projects, there might be a wardrobe assistant or a dresser. A friend of mine is one of the stylists for a member of Blackpink, and she's constantly going back and forth, grabbing pieces from wardrobe and bringing them to another stylist or bringing them to the artist, going back and forth. So that is pretty important on bigger shoots. Then we have models, otherwise known as talent. They are the face of the campaign. They wear the garments and they express the mood of the shoot. And then for set designer, art director, I know we already talked about that, production manager, producer, production assistant, runner, catering, hospitality. When I worked with Dakota, he handled pretty much all of this on his own. He designed the set. I gave him my ideas for where I wanted the art direction to go, and then he made it a reality. He booked the photographer. He booked the social media coordinator slash videographer. He booked the model. He booked the makeup artist. He designed the set. He also made sure everyone was on the schedule. He provided a call sheet and he ordered food for everybody for lunch. So again, shout out Dakota, man, for real. We made this shit happen twice for P1 and for P2, and now we have this amazing content and another really awesome shoot in the books. And now that I have some motion with this brand and this content and these products, I won't even really need to be at the shoot anymore. I feel like we have a template that we can follow. So I'm just going to be sending my garments directly to Dakota, and we're just going to run it with the same team like every month or two or every few months, depending on the rate at which I drop for various pieces. And it's just going to be like a machine. But it took a lot of building to get there, and it took a few shoots. At least for me, it took a few shoots, and Dakota at this point has done, I'm sure, like over 100. Yeah, that is a breakdown of content and creative directing your content. Now I'll pull up my Shopify and I will show you the basics of all this and how this works, and then we'll touch on marketing, and then we'll wrap. I know this video is getting pretty long. Okay, so in order to create an excellent e-commerce experience, I use Shopify. It is just, in my opinion, the best e-commerce platform on the market. I use a premium template that costs about $300, and then I tweaked it with my own custom liquid code. I have a couple plugins for linking like the Meta and TikTok pixels for marketing. I compress all of the images for site speed optimization, so the site runs really quickly. I have a streamlined cart and checkout process, and I put so much info, but I made it really clean on the site. And I'll show you what I mean by this in a second, by putting more info on the site. For full transparency, my website is a custom modification of the baseline premium theme. So let's check it out. Here is the home page. I have the word mark here. Let me drag this out of the way. I'm actually going to turn the make the dot plugin off. Okay, so at the top I have this scrolling announcement bar, and then I have the main navigation, the shop about section, support hub where people can submit a support ticket. And the next day or two I'm going to be integrating my Intercom AI customer service bot that's trained on my company's information. Make a whole video about that. I just don't want to show it while I'm still integrating it. But as you scroll down this page, then we have some widescreen ecom video, which looks really good, and especially on mobile. I think it looks really good for mobile as well. Then we have the product showcase with the 3 products in the capsule and 1 product in the upcoming drop. And then we have a scrolling banner with the PR feature and editorial photos. So you could scroll through these and they scroll automatically on a timer as well, just to set a vibe and showcase more of the really amazing images shot by Max Durante. And then below that, there's a widescreen video of the time lapse of the design process creating the garments in Clo 3D that I got from the atelier. And then a little blurb about me with some photos of me. And then the footer at the bottom, there's this Shopify admin navigation, but that won't be there for most people. 15% off email pop-up box. About page is basically just a showcase for me. Documents the story a little bit. Has a cool little blurb. Anyway, yeah, so the way this is done, it's password protected right now. It's not quite done. I have to add that AI chatbot, and I need to make sure that all my email marketing is properly integrated. So this will probably be live and public again on Monday. It's currently Thursday, April 10th, so on Monday it'll be back up. But yeah, the way that I've been really optimizing this website is with this ChatGPT prompt. So I made like my own rough draft of the site. These are some of the screenshots, right? I have the size chart, and then, oh, here, let me go through the product pages really quick. That's the one thing I didn't do before I start going through the ChatGPT prompt. On the product pages, I have the name of the product, the sizing, paying for installments of Shop Pay, add to cart, some the main product info with the size chart. You could scroll down, see all the photos and video, size and fit, the product details, care instructions, and then shipping and returns. So all of these need to be on the product page. no exceptions. Like all of this information needs to be on the product page. That's what I was saying by more info. Like before, I didn't put enough info on my site. The last couple collections or drops, like not enough info on my site. There's still, in my opinion, not enough info on this. I think I actually am probably going to add some user generated style content on here. I'm going to add an unboxing video on here. I got to add that AI chatbot. And I'd like to add some past reviews from other drops. So I'm going to reference this video and come back to this as a reminder for myself on what things I need to add. But just to give you some perspective on how I'm approaching this, I made the draft of this site and then I went to ChatGPT. I took screenshots of the site and I said, I have a 3 product capsule coming out in 3 weeks. Let's focus on optimizing my Shopify website for conversion rate for the upcoming drop. I need to create a comprehensive checklist that I can follow to make sure I have everything that I need to set up on my Shopify store before the release so I'm completely prepared to have no hiccups and sell out as fast as possible. I already have a comprehensive Shopify setup with an updated website, updated copy, and updated product info. I also have beautiful imagery, photos, and videos from a professional content shoot. I want you to have as much context as possible so that way you can best assist me with various queries moving forward. You should ask me clarifying questions in order for you to get the full picture before making any assumptions about my position. Then once enough context is established and I have the checklist, we will go through the checklist together one by one. So this is being run through a system prompt that I actually got from Parker Rex in the Vibe with AI Skool community. Shout out Parker. But he posted this prompt in there, which turns ChatGPT into a very critical, very smart first principles thinker, like business strategist, first principles thinker. So it broke down my entire Shopify by first principles and then gave me this checklist and my current status, what's missing, how to rebuild the system, and next steps. So I just went one by one and I checked things off this list and then it would update them with the status. So it told me to check the page speed. So I fixed the page speed and compressed a couple images and then it was like, okay, now it's fully it's fully optimized and it's mobile responsive. Now we need to place a checkout test order and check the payment buttons. Then we need to optimize the product page. So everything on my product page was optimized according to this custom GPT. So that's really solid. Homepage and navigation locked in, really solid. Launch mechanics, like it was saying that I need to link my email sequence, which is true, and I need to add my SMS setup, which I told I was going to skip until the very end because I need to do one thing with Klaviyo to verify my SMS number. It's another story. Anyway, then back end and operations, my inventory is all synced up with Pietra. I verified all the SKUs and variants. I have my free 2-day US shipping set up and my return policy. I still needed to test the order notification emails. That's all set up now within Klaviyo. Gave me details for the post-purchase experience and then a final action checklist. As of the last time looking at this, ChatGPT determined I was 85% complete to having a very competitive e-commerce website. I have made additional changes and verified those emails, so now it's definitely past 90% complete. But I think I could add the cherry on top, like the AI RAG customer service bot that's trained on my company's information and having the unboxing video up on there and not just in my ads, things like that. Like I could really tie the knot on a bunch of these things. But yeah, that's my Shopify. I'll probably make a video all about Shopify the week that I drop, and I can show you like some stats about orders and people on my site, things like that. But for now, let's move on and just touch on marketing really quick, and then we'll peel out of here. So I was just talking about email marketing a little bit. There are a few automated flows that are non-negotiable that you need to have. I use Klaviyo, but you could also just use the Shopify email provider that's built into Shopify, and it comes with a bunch of pre-built flows. I'm not going to go into all the details of the pre-built flows, but there are 3 that you like definitely need. That's your welcome series, abandoned cart reminders, and your post-purchase follow-up. write those down and then go watch some other video on YouTube from like an email marketing professional about your welcome series and your abandoned cart reminders and things like that, because those are super important, and that's organic marketing. You don't have to spend any money on that. It's not like you're investing into paid ads or anything. So just not having your email marketing set up is just leaving money on the table. For paid ads, I always recommend starting with something very simple. Don't mind all of the YouTube gurus saying you gotta spend like a couple $100s a day, especially if you've never run ads before. You just want to get the basics of understanding how like an ads funnel works. You don't need to be an ads expert. You just need to understand how the funnel works. So I'm going to explain the funnel with this $20 a day Facebook and IG, Instagram strategy that I used for a drop in the past. You want to think about all the people coming from, let's say, like Instagram or YouTube or something, right? And they're all funneling into your website or your social pages. At the top of the funnel, you have the majority of people. These are people that maybe express a little interest. They see your ad, but they don't really care, at least not yet. Within the middle of the funnel, you have people that have seen you a couple times now, right? There's less people here in the middle of the funnel, but these people are higher intent. And then at the bottom, this is the least amount of people, but these are the highest intent people, the people that are really likely to convert or make a purchase. So at the top, otherwise known as the awareness phase or the awareness stage, spend $8 a day here and just targeting broad interests related to your culture. I did anime and manga interests because look at this content. This is literally an e-girl wearing an anime shirt at a manga store. Ages 18 to 34. For any copy, which is just another word for the text that you use for your ads, the hook needs to be super clean. And you want to lead with the aesthetic, not the product. For example, hottest selling anime streetwear instead of softest hoodie, right? You don't want to talk about the product. You don't want to be like XYZ hoodie or XYZ shirt. Hottest selling anime streetwear. It's more about the aesthetic, not the product. And then for the call to action, we're not pushing for people to buy just yet. So I like to use a learn more call to action, and then we'll retarget them later when they reach the middle of the funnel. So this is where we start the retargeting process. They are now exiting the top of the funnel and entering the middle of the funnel. Here, we just retarget 7-day video viewers and page engagers. And the creative that we use, or the photos and videos that we use, just showcase the actual design process, any inspiration behind the drop, and social proof. Here's creative that I used for a drop in the past. It's all just influencers and UGC style content. For the call to action, we leave it as shop now and just optimize for purchases. That's the default. And then at the bottom of the funnel, we have the conversion phase. You can spend $5 a day. The people in this audience are people that visited the site within the last 30 days and people that added something to cart but didn't buy, or cart abandoners. The creative I used is a dynamic product ad. Basically, Facebook and Instagram just takes the product photography from the website and then feeds that to the viewer based on whether they viewed that product on your site or not. So for example, if someone comes to my site and they add this framework denim jacket to their cart, but then they don't buy and they scroll away, a dynamic shopping ad on Facebook will serve these photos to them in their Facebook feed later, reminding them to come back to their cart and purchase. For influencers, I know there are a ton of influencer marketing platforms out there. Personally, I've never used any of them. I've always connected with influencers strictly through Instagram DMs. So I just will go searching through hashtags. I'll go searching through archive pages and just find influencers that have collaborated with other brands. I try to find micro influencers that'll either do something for free, maybe in return for I run some ads to the content that they post or something like that. But I've always just done it that way. And then seasonal promotions. This is something I learned while working at an ad agency several years ago. For this one luxury women's wear brand in particular, we ran ads or some kind of discount every 6 weeks. So we would just find a reason to run sales. Like random holidays, like the Super Bowl Sunday sale, like it's not even a holiday. We would just find reasons to run 15 or 20% off sales, and it would move stock really quickly. I remember one morning specifically for the Super Bowl Sunday sale, it was like the first promotion that I had run while on the team shadowing the senior media buyer. And I woke up the Shopify making like 100 grand in a day. I was like, what the actual fuck is going on? And then was like, yeah, I should do this for my own brand. And I can do this for my own brand. That was several years ago. But anyway, it's a long ass video breaking down all 6 of these buckets in much more detail. I'm exhausted. In between takes, I like crushed this Starbucks double shot energy. Anyway, if you enjoyed this or found this valuable, please join my Skool community. It's called Brand OS. You can see it right here. There's 60 members trying to get to 100 members, and then I'm going to paywall it. So if you want to get in here for free, get access to all these mini online courses with a ton of content and videos and sections and text you could read, and teach you how to form an LLC and set up a brand and all that shit, man. Just go check it out. It's free. If you want, you can subscribe. That would help me out too. And I'll see you in the next one.